Let me finish with two examples from the scriptures and from my own personal experience. One that came to me as a teacher and one that came to me as a learner. As a teacher, it was parent-teacher conferences in seminary years ago. I had a concerned mother come into my office and say, my son's in your class and he loves what he's learning. I think he's open to you in ways that he's not open to me. I said, that's typical. My kids are the same way. No man is prophet in his own country. She said, my son has so much potential, which was true. He was awesome. But she said, he's so fun-loving and so easygoing with friends. I sometimes worry that he's not fully developing himself. He's not reaching his potential in the way that he could. He respects you. Is there anything you could say that might, light a fire under him? I looked at her and said, is tomorrow soon enough? And she smiled and said, no, seriously though. I'm not asking you to change the curriculum or anything. And I said, no, I'm being serious. Is tomorrow soon enough for you? I already had the lesson prepared for the next day. We were going to be talking about Solomon's temple. But based on her need, she was presenting me with a story problem. I have a son in this situation. Are there any answers there? And based on her need, the Spirit opened my eyes to something that story, Solomon's temple, taught that I never saw before. It was the fact that he built that temple out of cedar and gold. Jerusalem is surrounded by pine forests. The cedars come from Lebanon, and to get them, you'd have to go all the way up there and then cut them down and drag them down to the coast and float them down the Mediterranean shore and then drag them up to the hills and mountains of Jerusalem. But that's what Solomon did, because the house of the Lord deserved that. The Spirit helped me understand the relevance in that story to that specific teenager. And the next day, instead of teaching the lesson that I had originally prepared, which was probably more historical than anything else, we taught about what it means to build our lives out of cedar and gold instead of plywood and plaster, chicken wire and duct tape, to truly make ourselves into something that we could give to God and that He would accept as His own. I was grateful for that insight, not just for that student, but for myself and for other students that I've taught that principle to ever since. But it came as a response to a real situation. And that's when scriptures come to life for us. We add the life, and the scriptures provide the answers. The other experience was me as a learner, specifically as a father trying to raise my children. And the verse that really struck me came at the end of 1 Nephi chapter 8. Lehi has just taught his vision of the tree of life to a pair of sons that wanted to follow and a pair of sons that did not. And I was struck at the end of this chapter, all the things that Lehi did to try to raise his children. Verse 37 and 38, he exhorted them, but he did it with all the feeling of a tender parent. He preached to them. He prophesied unto them. He bade them keep the commandments of the Lord. Those were all things I did for my children. I exhorted all the time. I preached. I don't know if you could say I prophesied, but I did the best that I could. I bade them keep the commandments all the time. But it was the final phrase that I've been missing. The chapter ends, and he did cease speaking unto them. And the Spirit helped me understand there's a time to call it quits, Dad. There's a time to say, that's enough, and you don't have to keep hammering this home. Let your children exercise their agency. You've already taught them truth. I needed that reminder. And that was the scriptures answering for me a question I didn't even know that I had. You know you have questions. We all do. What's the one that you're thinking of right now? As we continue to learn how to study the scriptures, keep those questions in mind. Because as we feast upon the words of Christ, they will tell you all things that you should know.